This is Matt Hurt at Obsessive Viewer on Twitter, and this is ObsessiveViewer.com's The Obsessive Viewer Podcast. And welcome to The Obsessive Viewer. We're a movie and TV podcast that covers a specific topic, be it genre, trope, movie, or show, each episode. You can find more of our work at ObsessiveViewer.com. You can also like us on Facebook and join the Facebook group at Facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer. And you can support us on Patreon for exclusive audio content at the minimum rate of $1 per month at Patreon.com/ObsessiveViewer. I'm your aforementioned host, Matt Hurt, and with me today is frequent guest and contributing reviewer to ObsessiveViewer.com, Mr. Ben Sears. How's it going, Ben?
Wonderful. How's it going?
Not too bad, not too bad. We just recorded a special Patreon thing where we talked about Tom Hanks and school and other stuff, Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
Randomly.
It's all connected, don't worry.
Yes, yes.
It all makes sense.
Very free association. Well worth your $1. Yeah. So check that out at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer.
Matt's drinking his water.
Yes.
Very thirsty.
I am thirsty AF. When the pandemic started, I got a Brita filter, and it has changed my life.
Yeah.
So it's been very good.
Used to have one of those.
Very good to me. Yeah. It's good stuff. Okay. So today on the podcast, we are going to be starting a new review series that we had every intention of starting in like February.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So I had pitched this to you, Ben, back in like February, and then 2020 happened. And
hashtag 2020.
Hashtag 2020. And so now we're here and we're finally starting it. It is the Obsessive Viewer Ebert's Great Movies List Challenge Episode Series, Review Series or something. So the idea behind this series of episodes for the Obsessive Viewer is that Ben and I, and maybe other friends of the show, will dedicate an episode of the podcast to selecting each party to the podcast. Will select one movie from Roger Ebert's Great Movies list, which I'll put a link to all that in the show notes and everything. And we will watch those movies and then talk about them on the podcast. So for this introductory one, which we'll get to the actual reviews in a bit, but just to introduce it, this introductory one, we are going to be covering 1933's Duck Soup with the Marx Brothers and 1985's After Hours, directed by Martin Scorsese. So that is the kind of concept or the overall idea behind this episode series, but we'll talk more in depth about that because we do have some housekeeping and some stuff to go through. Since this is the first Obsessive Viewer episode in quite a while, I want to say like within a month or just shy of 1 month. So the last episode was June 21st, which featured you, Ben. How have you been since June 21st when we last heard your voice on the podcast waves?
About the same.
Okay, good, good. Oh yeah, that's right. In the Patreon feed, we talked about like the title for the Patreon recording for that episode was episode 74 of the Patreon feed, OVB roll, Matt and Ben's three-way.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, again, Patreon.
You still gotta do that.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Now I'm remembering the context of it, and like,
yep.
I got a little bit afraid when you said we still gotta do that, because I was like, wait, what am I committing to? But yeah, that does actually sound really good. So anyway, Ben, you have, before we get into the nitty gritty of this episode, you have posted a couple of reviews in the interim since the last time you were on the show. Do you want to kind of talk about those a little bit, like the movies that you have reviewed on the website?
Sure. I just did one Friday for the new Tom Hanks movie Greyhound. It's on Apple TV.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we're not a streaming platform yet.
Not yet. Still almost Apple quality. Apple.
Sure. I don't know if that is a compliment to us or a dig at them.
Well, you have an Android phone, so
there you go.
But yeah, I wrote that one last week. It's a fine little World War II movie with Tom Hanks. Kind of reminded me of 1917. A little bit of Dunkirk in some ways, but it just didn't all come together like they did. Okay. And I was kind of lukewarm to warm on 1917. So if that tells you anything, I think I gave it 3 stars in my review.
That sounds about right. Yeah.
Other than that, what did I do? Homemade.
Yes.
Yeah. Really fun, series on Netflix. It's a collection of short films from different filmmakers around the world, and I was really impressed with it. It's all these different filmmakers. They work kind of on their own mostly, and write and direct and produce their own short films. There's one from Kristen Stewart. There's one from David Mackenzie, who directed Hell or High Water.
Oh, nice.
There's one from Maggie Gyllenhaal. There's one from Rachel Morrison. She was she's a cinematographer, if I remember right.
Okay.
And the director of Bend It Like Beckham, she was in there too. Anyway, just a lot of really interesting voices around all around the world, and it's all about life during quarantine.
Nice.
And they all kind of tackle it in their own ways. Kristen Stewart's was kind of about like mental illness. Maggie Gyllenhaal's was kind of like a sci-fi kind of thing. Some of them did like a documentary kind of feel. But it was really, really solid. And you can watch one of them, you can watch all of them, any order you want, just kind of pop in as you want. And surprisingly, it goes against the Netflix model of binging every single one of them, one after the other. But it was really great. I enjoyed it. I would love to talk to someone about it, but no one else that I know has seen it. So,
yeah.
If anyone out there has seen it, feel free to send me a message. Let me know what you think.
Yes, please do. Yeah, I haven't watched it yet, but I'm intrigued by it. And and check out Ben's review on Obsessive.
I think the shortest one was like 4 minutes. The longest one was maybe 13. Nice. So it's really not much time at all. Okay. I think the total of all of the episodes was a little under an hour and a half. So just check it out.
Sweet. And that reminds me, I've been talking about this on the podcast for a while now. Have you watched, I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson?
I have watched a couple episodes of that. I, for whatever reason, haven't finished it, but yeah, the ones that I've seen, I've loved.
Nice.
They're great.
Yeah, I've watched it like almost countless times at this point. It's so good. Yeah. It's so just out there and off the wall. But yeah. And then also, speaking of shorts, the IndyShorts International Film Festival is about to start. July 21st to July 26th, this year. Sponsored by, obviously, it's from Heartland Film. Go to indyshorts.org. And hashtag IndyShorts 2020. So I haven't had a chance to really look through what all is in the pipeline for this year, but Ben, how are you feeling about IndyShorts? Because obviously they're doing kind of a bit of a virtual thing now, and also the drive-in. Yes. How are you feeling about IndyShorts, and are you going to check anything out?
Yeah, I'm going to check out as much as I can. you and I were both lucky enough to be part of the screening team. And we were talking before this about how unfortunately, we didn't get to see as much as we would have liked to, but, there was a decent portion of them that I did see that I liked. I don't know how many of them actually made it to the final selections, but, there's just a little bit of everything for everyone. And they've blocked it off into different like programming blocks. So if you want to watch family friendly shorts, you can watch, I don't know if you buy a separate ticket for each programming block or how that works, or if you can buy like an overall ticket. But just like I said, there's a little bit of everything for everyone.
I'm going through the guidebook now.
I think there might even be a horror block as well.
Yes,
right?
This is the first year that they are doing at both Indie Shorts and at Heartland Film in October.
Okay,
they're doing the Heartland Horror, which is super exciting because I've talked about this on the podcast before, but last year they had In Fabric, and outside of the screening, I was hanging out with some of the guys from the IFJA, and a couple of them are the ones that are like helping curate the Heartland Horror segment of both festivals. And this lady came up and was like, that was one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life. And my dad was a projectionist. So I've seen a lot of movies.
Wow.
So that's exciting. But there is one movie, I'm going through the guidebook, and there's one short. I think this might be in the high school film competition or in the not Indiana Spotlight. But anyway, it caught my eye because the title is Cat.
Oh.
And I'm very excited about that. And then I read the description, which it sounds good. But basically, it's a 5-minute short film from Madeline White. The plot description is: arriving home the morning after missing his daughter's birthday, a functioning alcoholic dad runs over the family cat. In an attempt to hide the cat, he finds himself drowning in the pool. There, he watches the last minutes of his life unfold.
Wow.
So that sounds pretty interesting.
Sign me up.
Yes. And then there's another, let's see. So there's a movie called Paradox. That's an 8-minute short film.
I think I screened that one.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Okay. Writer and director Glenn A. Pratt. The plot description is: a man from the future visits a scientist and tells her she'll invent time travel. However, she must attract her future husband first. When things don't work, she learns what it means to be yourself before losing that future forever. I am super down for that. Or did you like that one?
Yeah, it's fine. Right. It wasn't my favorite of the ones that I saw, but yeah, you should definitely check it out, because I think that's an Indiana one, I think.
I think so.
So whether you like it or not, you should support your local filmmakers.
Nice. Let's see. And and they do have Heartland Horror, which has looks like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9 short films. So I'm super excited to check those out. So it's going to be a good festival, I think. And God, I really love the way that they do their guidebooks over at Heartland. It's just really good.
And if you want a ticket, I have one to give away. So if anyone out there wants one, I don't know if it's for a certain programming block or for all together, but if anyone out there wants a code for a ticket, I have one to give away. So
sweet.
Slide into those DMs.
Yes. Where can they find you?
BenSearsPhotography.com, probably the easiest place.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to checking out Indie Shorts Film Festival. It should be very exciting. Let's see. And then we do have some new business to go over, Ben, because I keep forgetting to ask you your thoughts on this movie. You recently saw the movie Sunshine from 2007 from Danny Boyle. How did you feel about it?
I liked it. I need to watch it again.
Okay.
I think if I remember right, when I watched it, I don't think I watched it all in one sitting.
Okay.
And I think that's one of those that you probably should do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I watched it on my phone, which was not ideal.
Okay.
Although that seems to be the majority of how I watch movies these days, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Kids kind of do that to you.
Mm-hmm. I know, I've got a cat. Yeah.
She's pretty demanding of your space, I'm told.
Yes. Let's not mince words. She's a little seat thief. So anyway, sorry, go ahead.
I thought it was a really solid, really original concept for a sci-fi movie. I was trying to think of what it reminded me of a little bit. It's not a perfect comparison, but maybe, I don't know, Moon? I forget who directed it with Sam Rockwell. Sam Rockwell. I don't know, just kind of like I guess a quote-unquote hard sci-fi kind of movie. But yeah, it was really solid. I enjoyed Chris Evans and I forget everyone else. Cillian Murphy. Everyone else I'm blanking on currently.
Rose Byrne, Cliff Curtis, other people. Benedict Wong.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I'm really curious though, because I think you've said it's like one of your all-time favorites, right? It
is definitely one of my all-time favorites, and I will put in a quick plug here because I don't know how this sounds, but I was re-listening to old episodes of Anthology, my solo podcast. On episode 42 of Anthology, I reviewed The Trouble with Templeton from season 2 of the original Twilight Zone, and my bonus review was of Sunshine, which is funny because the bonus review was a Patreon suggestion from friend of all of the shows, Robert in Utah, who donated the rental to you for you to watch Sunshine. So
thank you, Robert.
Yeah. So he's a big fan of Sunshine, and as am I. But I would recommend checking out episode 42 of Anthology. Just to throw that out there. That's at anthologypod.com/042. But if you don't want to, go fuck yourself. But also, no, I'm kidding. I'm joking. Please don't. Sunshine is really great. I think what I love most about it is just, it's, like you said, it's a really good, like, hard sci-fi movie. There is some almost supernatural kind of stuff, or like some stuff that kind of pushes the boundaries of science fiction. Mm-hmm. But it also kind of completely changes the genre 2/3 of the way through it anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I think most of all what I like about it is that it's the kind of science fiction and the kind of story that I really like. It's just a group of people that are trying to solve a problem, and they're doing it in like the most logical way. And then also they're all, confronted with, each individual character is kind of confronted with their own like little crisis, and it's really just well done in terms of giving each character a specific arc, and then also it plays with a lot of themes of like faith versus science and like things like that. Like the imagery of that last shot, I won't spoil it, but the imagery of the last shot is just really striking because it's kind of just like this physical representation of those themes, and I think that was just really well done.
Okay.
Also the soundtrack is amazing. I love it. So, yeah.
I think the real reason why you like it, because this isn't really spoiling anything, but the main plot is the sun is going dark, and so they are sent to send a nuke into the sun, and I forget which one this was, but at one point over the last 4 years, Trump floated the idea of sending a nuke into a hurricane.
Yeah, let's nuke the hurricanes.
I think that's probably subconsciously why you love it so much.
I don't
'Cause you
think that's it.
You support the president's thinking so much, and
not even
think he's a very
bit.
Stable genius.
No.
I just ruined the movie for you, didn't I?
No. But it is kind of funny that it's just like the solution to save the sun is to nuke the sun. Which actually does have some scientific ground to it, apparently. Like, their scientific advisor was Professor Brian Cox, not the actor, but he I guess, like, he consulted on the movie, and like it tracks, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah. That just reminds me of
Nuke the Whales.
Yep. It reminds me of two Simpsons reference. One, Nuke the Whales.
Yep.
Gotta nuke something.
Yep.
And then, Who Shot Mr. Burns when he blocks out the sun?
Oh, yeah.
Specifically the line where Mr. Burns says, since the dawn of time, man has yearned to destroy the sun. Oh, so great. So that's cool. If you do rewatch it, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. If you want to borrow the Blu-ray so that Robert doesn't have to keep donating money to you, you're more than welcome to. Yeah, I think I mentioned in that episode of Anthology, not to plug again, but I mentioned that I've bought that movie several times just because, like an idiot. Not necessarily like an idiot, but the first time I bought it was when it was released on DVD. I didn't see it in theaters because it was kind of a limited release and I didn't get a chance to see it. And so I bought the DVD and I watched it at work several times. And then I bought the Blu-ray because Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And then I bought Tiny It on Blu-ray. And then my PS3 had some kind of glitch or something that made it defective on the PS3. So I bought like a new one or something, and then I got a replacement disc from Sony or something, and then I don't know. So I bought it a lot of times.
Nice.
But it's great. How does it compare to other Alex Garland scripted stuff that you've seen?
Let's see, what else have I seen of his? 28 Days Later.
28 Days Later, The Beach, Ex Machina, Annihilation, and Devs. And, Never Let Me Go. And Dread.
Have not seen those last two.
Okay.
I would still say that Annihilation and Ex Machina are my two favorites. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I need to watch it again. Mm-hmm. And then maybe we'll see. Nice. All right. Well, those are our thoughts on Sunshine. Let's nuke the sun. Jesus. Yeah. And then something else that we want to talk about before we get into the reviews for this episode. Ben, you had floated the idea of doing a top 10 of the year so far, and then we dropped it down to top 5 because it's 2020. So yeah, what of the movies that you've seen this year that were released this year, what sticks out to you? I would say my number one as of right now is The Assistant.
Nice.
Have you seen that one? Okay.
So you remember, I told you that I rented it, right?
You might have.
Yeah, I had rented it because it was on sale to rent on Vudu for like 99 cents.
Okay, yeah.
And then last night I was settling in to watch one of several movies that I have to watch this week. And I went to Vudu and I saw that The Assistant had 77 minutes left in the rental. And I was like, no, I gotta watch After Hours. Yeah. So I didn't watch it, but maybe I'll see it eventually.
Well, you're in luck because I believe it comes to Hulu.
Oh, nice.
I think next Monday, the 20th.
Oh, awesome.
So you've still got a chance. But yeah, nice. I think that's probably my favorite movie of the year so far.
Okay.
And I'm kind of surprised you haven't seen it because it's directed by Kitty Green.
Right. Yes.
So. And
I love kitties. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking it up now to find out exactly when it does, because it's definitely on my radar.
Okay.
It's about the oh my god, Weinstein?
Yes and no.
Or is it a fictionalized account of like something that's like
they never say his name, but it basically is his stand-in.
Gotcha.
And it's very clever how they do it. I won't say too much about it, but I was really impressed with it. And then you've watched Ozark, correct? Or at least some of it.
I've watched the first season.
The girl that plays Ruth Langmore is the star of The Assistant.
Okay.
And she's really solid.
Nice.
So, I really loved her performance, and the movie wouldn't work without her and her performance. So,
Sweet.
Check it out.
Awesome. And yeah, that hits Hulu on July 20th.
Okay.
So nice. I will definitely have to check that out. I feel a lot better now that I completely skipped the rental that I had, which I have a huge problem with doing that in general. Yeah, so that's your top one. What other ones stand out?
I really liked a movie that I reviewed for the website, Deerskin.
Nice.
A French movie about a guy that basically goes crazy. The Vast of Night, talked about last time.
Yep.
Bloody Nose Empty Pockets, the documentary that I reviewed for the website. Let's see. Have you seen Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always yet?
I haven't, but I've heard incredible things.
Yeah. It's in my top 10, yeah.
Okay. Out of how many movies, though?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, do you have a favorite so far this year?
So far this year, I'm going kind of strictly by, right now, just my ratings on Letterboxd. So my top 5, from 5 to 1, is Scream Queen, my Nightmare on Elm Street, which I reviewed with Mike a couple of episodes ago, which that's just kind of a default number 5, because I just haven't watched enough.
Sure.
Number 4 is Onward, which I should probably rewatch, but, it was solid. And then number 3 is The King of Staten Island, which I don't know if I'll really watch again.
I know I won't.
Yeah. And then number 2 is The Vast of Night, which I have watched again and have loved again. So that is at least a solid pick there.
Yeah.
And then number 1, just in terms of really alphabetized, I think, is Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn.
Nice.
Yeah.
That one's in there as well, at least in the conversation for it, yeah.
Yeah, and really at this point, I mean, it's crazy because it's July.
Yeah.
But also circumstances. But it's just crazy that of those 5 movies, the only one that I have a strong feel toward is The Vast of Night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like, and yeah, it's partially unfair because of everything else that's been going on, but I feel like last year, but at this point, I don't even know how many, but several more that were almost locks for my top 10 at this point. And I know that, October, November, December, that's when the big, Oscar plays are going to be coming out. But I mean, still at this point, just the ones that have come out have been just, I don't know, just totally forgettable.
Yeah, they really have.
I mean, first quarter of the year, is generally when movies kind of get dumped. But even by that standard, that's just been like the ones that have come out on Netflix have been just nothing worth really recommending or even thinking about too much.
Yep.
Not even really like bad movies. Just kind of just so forgettable.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm having a hard time like really getting the motivation to watch a lot of movies that are released now.
Yeah.
I'm kind of taking this weird world we're in as somewhat of an opportunity to kind of fill in some blanks and gaps in my movie watching, and also to catch up on some podcasting.
Yeah.
Because I've been pumping out so much content this year. But I mean, it's the stuff that I've gotten to see from this year have been just kind of just okay at best.
Right. And I've thought, like, if these movies came out last year, would they make it into my top 10 at the end of the year?
Interesting.
I don't know if one or two might by the end of the year, but beyond that, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And then I was going to suggest what movies are we looking forward to, but who knows what the fuck is going to come out or when it's going to come out. Because like I told you before we were recording, I saw a headline. I didn't read the article, but I saw a headline on Deadline that said that the planned August release of Tenet looks unlikely. Which isn't a surprise at all, because I just don't know. I don't know how movie theaters are going to open back up, even with
mask mandates
and just like safety measures in place and everything. I don't know how, because even me, I don't know if I'd feel comfortable going to the movie theater.
Yeah.
And it's been months since I've been to a movie theater, and I love the movie theater. So,
because I think last time I was here, we talked a little bit about the IMAX theater at the State Museum, and they've had some pretty solid selections. Like, I think a week or two ago, they had Mad Max Fury Road, which I would love to see in the theater, because I didn't get to see it when it first came out.
Same.
But I don't know.
Yeah. They had that. They had Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Interstellar is coming up. And
you're going to be first in line either way for that one, right?
Jesus. It's funny because like the first time I saw Interstellar was in that theater on 70 millimeter. I don't know. I need to rewatch it again. I don't know. I have a digital copy of it that Fekis gave me, and we'll see.
Okay.
So I take it that you haven't been to the IMAX or anything? No. Okay. Have you been because they're also, like, the drive-in has been having some pretty good stuff. Have you made your way to the drive-in at all?
No. It's past my bedtime.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. They were having, like, Amazon Studios or whatever were having the, night or whatever. I don't remember what all it was, but anyway, that's, like, it's this Wednesday at, like, 9:30 p.m., and I'm like, ooh, okay. It's a little late for me.
Although I think I saw that, I think it was a Tibbs drive-in. They're showing Palm Springs at some point.
Oh, really?
So check it out. Nice. Yes, it's on Hulu, but support your local theaters.
Yes. Do what we say, not what we do. Go and support drive-ins and everything. Man, just quick COVID check-in and everything. Do you see it coming back to normal at all at any time? Like cause man, everything is crazy.
Around the country, probably not. I mean, I think I saw this is a new headline every single day, it seems, but Florida posted a new record, I think yesterday. Yeah,
like 15,000 confirmed cases in one day.
Yeah.
Which is the most, by a long stretch, the most of any other state, obviously. Yeah. And also, the number was higher than the entire country of South Korea in general. Like, from the beginning to now, the entire amount that they've had is less than what was reported in Florida for one day. Which is just terrifying.
Yeah, if you really want to get scared, look at any bar graph showing the calendar year of 2020 and how cases have risen and fallen here in America. And if you really want to get scared, look at it versus pretty much any other country.
Yep. Crazy times. So do you want to go into our special Ebert's Great Movies reviews? Did we have any other thing to go into?
I got nothing.
Okay. All right. Do you want to go into our reviews then?
Let's do it.
No name is more synonymous with film criticism than Roger Ebert's.
Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world. Millions of despairing men, women, and children.
People say, do film critics have too much power?
For those who can hear me, I say, do not despair.
We can help a movie. We can help a movie by sharing our enthusiasm. We can't necessarily hurt a movie that is destined to be a big hit anyway.
You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure.
And then Roger Ebert gets up.
What I find very offensive and condescending about your statement is nobody would say to a bunch of white filmmakers, how could you do this to your people?
In a democracy, let us all unite!
All right, awesome. So, as I said before, the concept for this new segment on the podcast is that Ben and I each are going to select a single movie from Roger Ebert's Great Movies list, and we're going to review and discuss them in a special series of podcast episodes. This is part 1 of that, and there are over 300 movies on this list.
Now, should we say there's a couple on there that we probably shouldn't do? There's The Birth of a Nation.
Right.
I think there's the Adolf Hitler Triumph of the Will.
Yes. That would be a very unique double feature, though.
Oh, boy.
I've got to say.
There's some parts of this country where I'm sure that's happening.
Yep. And they can be filmed.
Like the White House, maybe?
Yeah.
Cut that out.
No. At this point, I don't care.
There's like an 8-hour documentary about the Holocaust.
Shoah.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say we can skip those.
Yeah, I would like to see Shoah sometime, but that is a tall order.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough. And also they have, in addition to that, they have, Star Wars. I mean,
oof.
Come on.
Stormtroopers, you know?
Right?
And plus,
yeah.
I don't know. It's the Ebert website is kind of funky, and it's kind of hard to tell or determine, you know,
yeah.
The user interface isn't the most ideal. And I think they recently changed it to make it less ideal.
Yeah.
But I think I saw there's a bunch of lists on Letterboxd that supposedly have them all listed. Yeah. And I think there's like a Bugs Bunny cartoon or two in there.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like on the list that I'm working off of, or that I found last night and put in the notes for this episode, was Looney Tunes Golden Collection Volume 1.
Yeah.
Which, okay, that can be kind of...
By the way, quick aside, my 5-year-old loves the Looney Tunes now.
Nice.
There's the new ones on HBO Max, and I got him to watch them one day. He loves them.
Nice. Was he really up in arms about, oh, God.
Yosemite Sam and the shot, or Elmer Fudd without the shotgun.
Without the gun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Jesus. Also, that just reminds me that it was announced today that the Washington Redskins are going to drop the name. They're going to come up with something different. And, like, I went to the comments just to see if anyone was, like, dumb enough to put, like, they're erasing history. Like the Confederate things. Anyway.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, so this time, I'll put a link to the Great Movies list, in the show notes, as well as the Letterboxd list that I have, for it. It's worth noting that several of these movies are available on HBO Max and Criterion Channel and Canopy. Yep. Yeah, which Canopy has something that was recently, just an aside, Canopy has, last time I checked, it has, the documentary Love and Tosha, about, Anton Yelchin.
Oh, yeah.
That documentary. It is on Canopy. Canopy is a free streaming service you link with your library card. That documentary is incredible. I highly recommend it.
Okay.
Yep. So, Ben, this time on this edition, this inaugural edition of Ebert's Great Movies, as per the obsessive, I need to find out like a clean name for it. Like,
yeah.
The OV
Ebert's
EbertCon.
We'll workshop it.
We will, because I think Ebert.
Oh yeah. Ebert Fest.
Ebert Fest. Yeah. That's what I was trying to think.
That's a real thing already.
Yeah, in Chicago. Yeah, the OV Ebertathon. I don't know. Anyway, our Ebert's Great List, or Great Fuck. This inaugural edition of the Obsessive Viewers, Roger Ebert's Great Movies List review series, podcast episode series. So anyway, this time on the podcast, we're going to cover 1933's Duck Soup, featuring the Marx Brothers, and 1985's After Hours, directed by Mr. Martin Scorsese. So, Ben, the first one that we're going to do, what I think is that what we should do is just do chronologically between the picks and everything. So,
okay.
This one, obviously, Duck Soup is first up because it's from 1933. The plot summary is Rufus T. Firefly is named president/dictator of bankrupt Fredonia and declares war on neighboring Sylvania over the love of wealthy Mrs. Teasdale. So this movie stars the four Marx Brothers, Groucho, Chico,
don't look at your phone.
No. I don't know. Coco Marx, to throw out a reference to Comedy Bang Bang. I can't remember the other two.
Groucho, Harpo, Chico, and Zeppo.
Okay.
Zeppo is barely in this one, so you're forgiven for that one.
Yes. I will say, just right up top, this was my first experience watching anything Marx Brothers related. And it's interesting because, like, I last year got into a bit of a kick where I watched a little bit of Charlie Chaplin's stuff from that same kind of era, and Laurel and Hardy around the same time. And I really was kind of entranced or interested in this era of comedy and the history of comedy. So I was excited to watch this. And yeah, so we'll talk more about it and everything. I will say that it would have been interesting to pair this movie with The Great Dictator, which is also on the list.
Yeah.
But we didn't. So Ben, this was your selection. What made you pick Duck Soup for the inaugural Obsessive Viewer Ebert's Great List podcast review series, mini series, episode series, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com?
I don't know. I love this movie and nobody else that I know has seen it. So I just wanted an opportunity to talk with someone about it.
Nice.
I love it. It was also my first, Marx Brothers movie. So I loved it to begin with. I think I've seen it, I would say at least 3 times now.
Okay.
And yeah, it's, of the ones that I've seen, it's my favorite, Marx Brothers.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the other ones you've seen?
I've seen A Night at the Opera and Love Happy, which I just watched maybe a week ago because I got it from the library, and on the cover it says with Marilyn Monroe.
Oh.
And it's not untrue, but it's like one of her first movies that she ever did. So
really?
She's literally in it. Like, she walks in, says a couple words, and walks out. And I didn't even really recognize her at first.
Wow.
So
interesting.
Pretty clever marketing on their part. But if you're in it to see Marilyn Monroe, you're going to be disappointed. And that one, I would say I like the least.
Okay.
because it's definitely the furthest from Duck Soup.
Okay.
And we'll get into it, but Duck Soup is basically just nonstop jokes.
Yeah.
And this one was a lot more plot driven. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, the thing that kind of struck me about Duck Soup is that it is very much very quick, just joke, but not in a joke overload kind of way. It was more just like rapid fire, quick, like sight gags and punny dialogue, which I really appreciated.
Yeah.
Like there's one line where one of them says something about I can't remember exactly what it was, but they're like, "Oh yeah, those big steel things that move," and then I think it's Groucho says tanks, and then he's like, "You're welcome," and just like little things like that. That really got to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is very like it was almost jarring because I wasn't expecting it to be just almost. It's almost in a sense of it's almost kind of just a series of vignettes or standalone acts, but there is a cohesive story, but it's just, like you said, it's not plot driven by any stretch. But the timing of it, it's something that this era of comedy in general, like back, like when, the talkies were just starting essentially, like in between, the silent era and, sound was, it seems like this type of comedy, the type of comedy that emerged from that, was just that rapid fire, just quick wit, and very much like sight gag related kind of thing. And that was something that I really thought that Duck Soup melded really well, was doing the kind of sound designed ones, like dialogue based humor, while also marrying that with that silent era kind of comedic escapades and the timing of it. So I really enjoyed it. So yeah.
I need to do a little more research on this, but from what I remember hearing is that a lot of their early movies, the Marx Brothers, the like there's the famous mirror scene in this one.
Yes.
And
we'll talk about that. That was really cool.
Those are all basically like their vaudeville acts that they perfected over the years, and they just stuck them in their movies. Mm-hmm. So I really love that, and just seeing where that stuff came from, because I had seen the mirror thing,
parodied endlessly.
Yeah. And this is pretty much where that came from, as far as I can tell.
Yeah. Anytime I see like something like this, and I see that like this is a particular one, which, I mean, granted, it's been used, and referenced countless times in media, but the one that I most associated with now is the Family Guy one, where Stewie and Hitler are doing that. And like, anytime I see that, I just think, anytime I see something that Family Guy paid homage to, I get this, like, I don't know what it is, but when it's Family Guy specifically, it just feels like Family Guy is just ripping it off way more than like paying homage to it. Yeah. And so like every time I see like a gag that originated in something else that I know from Family Guy, I'm like, God, that's the laziest fucking show. Because it's just, I don't know. Anyway, what were some of your standout bits in the movie that really caught you?
The one I really don't know why, but the first time that I watched it, it cracked me up just endlessly. There's a moment at the end where they're all kind of holed up in this house, and war is going on outside of them. And it's just this very stupid, silly gag where a giant, like, Super Mario type bullet or bomb or something comes flying through the window, and then Groucho Marx's first reaction is to shut the window. And I don't know, I just thought that was so stupid and funny. That, and then I just love that this, like, nobody ever comments on it, but that closing scene, almost every time the camera cuts away, and comes back on him, Groucho Marx is in a different outfit. And like, there's one where he's in like a Daniel Boone kind of getup. There's one where he's like in like a Napoleon type getup, and it's just super silly. And no one comments on it. No one says anything. So, nice. I just thought that was just funny and dumb, but really smart at the same time.
Nice. So when they're in, Firefly's house and the other two,
Chico and Harpo.
Yes.
Chico is the one that talks. Harpo has the curly hair and the top hat, and he does not talk.
Yes. So when they are in the house and they're disguised as Firefly, like in the lead up to the mirror scene, just the back and forth of that, like when like one goes into the room and then they have to hide under the bed when the other one comes in, and then what's her name is confused or having to interact with them, and it's just all it evokes a feeling of like what would become like the sitcom trope of just like misunderstanding or confusion. But the timing of it and the frantic nature of it is just really, really, energetic and funny.
Yeah.
And a weird connection that I made, or a weird association that I made was that I don't know how intentional it is, but it feels like the people who made Three Ninjas in the 90s kind of were inspired by that type of comedy.
Okay.
Because if you've seen Three Ninjas, there's a sequence where the titular ninjas are having to defend their house from people that are there to kidnap them, and they're like these surfer dude guys, and they basically do this thing where they go through each room and they're kind of fighting them, but without them knowing that they're there. So it just kind of felt like that, but that was more probably a response to Home Alone, because Home Alone was eating shit. And yeah. Anyway, but that was probably my favorite sequence, just because it kind of builds up to that moment where it's the chaos of it, the chaos of the comedy. Like, they've had like scenes like that, like the scene with Harpo and Chico with the aristocratic guy or whoever it was. Yeah. Like that. It's funny, but it's also like, I don't know why they're doing it, but it's funny enough that it's okay, but it's also like, holy crap, like they're just messing with this dude.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't want to think too much about the internal logic of it all.
Nope. But it's still very entertaining. And then should we talk about the mirror sequence? 'Cause that's so impressive. So impressive and just silly, and there's a moment during it. So basically, if you haven't seen the movie and you don't mind we didn't really delineate spoilers and non-spoilers, but there's really much to spoil. Yeah, but the mirror scene is Groucho and Chico?
All three of them, I think, at some point.
Yeah, they are basically on opposite,
the mirror, there's a mirror in one of the bedrooms that breaks. And
opens up into another room.
Yeah, it's something like that.
Yeah. Which also, that shot of whichever one it was running into the mirror and shattering it. That actually reminds me, I don't know if this was an intentional thing in 1959, but in the first ever episode of The Twilight Zone, Where Is Everybody? Earl Holliman does that same thing. Like, he's in a town that's deserted and there's no one else around, and he's running just because he's like frantic. Like, he's in a movie theater and the movies start playing and it freaks him out. So he runs down like the staircase and then runs right into a mirror and it shatters. I don't know if that's a reference to that or if that was a conscious thing, but that was interesting that, almost 30 years later they did that in a different context. But anyway.
Twitter.com/anthologypod.
Exactly. Yes. I'm sorry. It's twitter.com/OV anthologypod.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yes. And anthologypod.com. Anyway, don't listen to that first episode though, because a little rough. Anyway. So if you do listen to that first episode, try to hear where I've spliced in or I've edited out me saying Sterling instead of Serling. And yeah. Anyway, so yeah, the mirror sequence is where they're on opposite sides of what used to be a mirror, and they are imitating each other. And it's kind of almost perfectly choreographed, and it's just this weird, like almost, dance performance.
Yeah. It's totally silent.
Yes. Yeah. And the sound is completely gone through that section, which I thought was an interesting choice. An interesting kind of, I guess, callback to the silent era. I don't know if that was the intention or if there was something else, some other reason for it, but yeah, it's really well done, and it reaches like a farcical level that is just delightful. Cause you think as it's going on, you're thinking that, oh, okay, well, he's going to find out that it's not a mirror or anything. But then when he should find out that it's not a mirror, they're still doing their whole thing. And it's so silly. I don't know.
And I think at one point, like they switch places.
Yeah, they hold hands and then go in a circle, so they're switching spots in the mirror. It's really good. Yeah, how did you feel about that whole sequence?
Yeah, I thought it was just brilliant. You think at first, like, okay, this can go on for maybe a minute, and then they somehow find a way to escalate it and make it funnier, and totally worth it. I loved it.
Yep.
There's a bit in A Night at the Opera that's pretty memorable as well, but I would say that the mirror sequence in this is pretty up there as far as I've seen.
Okay. So I forgot that I was going to read a whole thing before this, but I'll do that before the next review. So anything else about Duck Soup?
Well, I always, it just, the first time that I found this out, it just blew my mind that this movie, and I don't know or which ones, but this one at least was not written by any of the Marx Brothers.
I heard that.
I thought that was just crazy.
Yeah.
Because Groucho, well, really all of them, they have their own very distinct style and of not even just talking, but delivering their jokes and the dialogue and everything. And to find out that it wasn't written by any of them, that was just insane.
And it's really interesting because, like you said, a lot of their bits in it are taken from their vaudeville act.
Yeah.
So, and there's not really a plot at all in it. Like there's plot, but it's not dependent on it. So it's mostly the comedy beats, and it's just weird that they're not credited as writing it. But it's pretty unique. That's interesting.
So would this go on your great movies list?
I was going to ask you a question because I want to ask a specific question when we wrap up the reviews.
Okay.
What I would say, so to kind of wrap up for this segment of this episode of the Obsessive Viewer Roger Ebert's great movies list, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. So honestly, when I was watching it, I was just kind of thinking like, okay, this is fine. It's good. But I just felt like I was more, it didn't feel as refined and, frankly, it didn't feel as clever as like the Charlie Chaplin stuff that I'd seen before, or even the Laurel and Hardy stuff. So I kind of had that bias during it, but kind of talking it out and kind of remembering all the comedic beats and everything, I kind of, in my head, I have come to terms with their style versus the stylings of Chaplin or other comedians of that era. So it's kind of like it's settled in my mind to where I like it. I don't know if I would be comfortable saying that I would put it on like a great movies list until I see it again.
Okay.
To kind of reevaluate it, but it's only 69 minutes long and it's a breeze. Like it that it carries the momentum really well, which is something that I'll also say about the next movie. But it's something that really stood out after letting it sit in my mind. So, yeah, I would say the jury is out on whether or not I would put it on any great movies list, but it's something that I would be happy to revisit. And it makes me very much interested in checking out more of the Marx Brothers' work. And everything. How about you? This is probably a no-brainer question, but would you put it on Ben Sears' greatest movies list?
100%, yeah.
Nice.
I would recommend it to pretty much anyone.
Sweet. Yeah. Very nice. So the question I was going to ask, the kind of thing that I want to ask after each of these reviews, in kind of an homage to the man, of which we're doing, which, by the way, I did not read this thing. So a quote from Roger Ebert, and I'll try to do this quote every time we do one of these episodes at the start of it, but his quote is, "One of the gifts a movie lover can give anyone is the title of a wonderful film they have not yet discovered. Here are more than 300 reconsiderations and appreciations of movies from the distant past to the recent past, all of movies that I consider worthy of being called great." So that's just, I just like that. And Roger Ebert was incredible.
Nice.
But, Ben, in homage to the man, Duck Soup, thumbs up or thumbs down?
2 thumbs up.
Nice. Same here. So that is a thumbs up from both of us. And I'm going to put a note on it as well. So I don't know. I was just really tickled that I thought of that last night. I was like, oh, we should definitely give like thumb ratings, through it, which is, I was really excited about it, but then I realized like, okay, it's Roger Ebert's great movies in this. Like, right. How many thumbs down are we going to have? Which,
yeah.
We'll see. It'll be an interesting project for sure. So that's 2 thumbs up for Duck Soup from 1933 with the Marx Brothers. And so, Ben, do you want to go on to our next review for this episode?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, great. So the next movie we're going to be discussing is 1985's After Hours, directed by Martin Scorsese. The plot summary is: an ordinary word processor has the worst night of his life after he agrees to visit a girl in Soho whom he met that evening at a coffee shop. So like I said, this was directed by Martin Scorsese. It is not really available to stream anywhere. I actually ended up buying it on Vudu.
Oh.
And spoiler for the review, but I'm very happy that I did because, man, this movie was really good. I really enjoyed it. So, something that I realized while watching it is that I just picked it just kind of granted, it's been so long since we picked these movies,
right,
that I don't remember exactly why I picked this one, but I think part of it was just because I really want to watch more Scorsese movies and everything. But something I didn't really even consider until I was watching this movie was that, at least according to the documentary Life Itself, Ebert really gave his reviews of Scorsese's work really gave Scorsese that push to become, like, his career would not have been the same had it not been for Ebert championing his early movies.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know, just purely by coincidence, I just think it's kind of cool that I picked a Scorsese movie for the first episode of this project that we're doing.
Yeah.
That's my way of saying I don't remember why I picked it. I think part of it is honestly because it's only like 97 minutes long.
Yeah, this is definitely an outlier in Scorsese's work.
And also, I was just very interested in it because of the plot being based around like, one guy's crazy night.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of plot mechanic and plot device that I gravitate toward. Like I've talked about it before, I'm a big fan of, like one night teen coming of age movies.
Okay.
And this is it's not a teen movie, but it's very much a one night from hell movie. So I was kind of interested in that. So Ben, how did you like After Hours? And have you seen it before? And, what were your overall thoughts on Martin Scorsese's After Hours?
No, I hadn't seen it before, and I really enjoyed it.
Nice.
I didn't really know what to expect because I didn't look at the plot description ahead of time.
Nice.
I don't do that as much as I can. But it was really great. It was an outlier. It was definitely an outlier for Scorsese in a lot of ways. I feel like, from what I have seen from him anyway. The running time, the fact that it's kind of a comedy.
Yeah, it is.
Not an outright, Marx Brothers level comedy, but there's definitely some funny stuff in it. Plus, he's not using, I don't think he's using any of the actors that he is known for using.
Yeah, not really.
I hadn't even heard of the main actor,
Griffin Dunne.
Griffin Dunne. Yeah, no,
me neither.
I never heard of him. I might have seen him in one or two other things, but I can't recall off the top of my head. But yeah, it was great. I don't know. I don't think I have as great of a love for One Night in Hell movies like you do, but I can appreciate them, and I think this was a really solid version of that. Shout out to Good Time, which is also a One Night in Hell movie.
That's right.
Which you still haven't seen.
I still need to see that.
But yeah, it's I'm really glad that I saw this. I don't know if or when we would have gotten to it if it wasn't for you picking it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know either. I'm glad that I picked it too. I really enjoyed it. And just real quick, Griffin Dunne has been in a ton of stuff.
Okay.
He is presumably currently, he's been in 22 episodes of This Is Us. He is going to be in the Wes Anderson movie, The French Dispatch, which I just remembered we were talking about doing like a retrospective. That seems like so long ago at this point.
Yes, it does.
Holy crap! But Griffin Dunne has also been in Succession, Ocean's 8. Those are small roles and everything. I'm
sure he looks totally different now too.
Oh, I'm sure. He was also in War Machine.
Okay. Barely remember that one.
Yeah. And a bunch of stuff. But yeah, After Hours, I really, really loved the energy of this movie. So it's from 85, and like Scorsese, he was pretty prominent. I mean, he's always been prominent. He's one of the like greatest filmmakers of like our time.
Yeah.
But this is when it's still fairly early in his career. Like, I mean, he was pretty prolific in the 70s and everything, but
yeah, let's talk about like what this movie is sandwiched in between. Because let's see, right before this is The King of Comedy. Mm-hmm. Right before that was Raging Bull. Right after this, in 86, was The Color of Money. Jeez. With Paul Newman and Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. This was, I think Raging Bull was kind of considered like his comeback a little bit. At least from what I have heard.
Right.
And yeah. Did you read Ebert's review about this and kind of the behind the scenes story about it?
I didn't. I meant to read the essays for both of these movies, but then I just got today was a really busy day at work.
Yeah.
So but like, do you want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, I think it actually adds a little bit more to the movie that I think is really interesting. So apparently he made this, like he was in the process of making The Last Temptation of Christ, which doesn't come out finally until 1988. Jeez. And what kind of inspired him to make After Hours is he was in the process of making Last Temptation. They had like built the sets and they were getting ready to start production on it, and then the studio kind of like yanked it
really?
For one reason or another. I don't remember. But so he had been working on this and getting excited and getting ready to make The Last Temptation of Christ for so long. Mm-hmm. And then he kind of made this as kind of a response to that, and just kind of like this Griffin Dunn character is like Scorsese stan, and he's just getting yanked around and just going through hell. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh man, that is incredible, because you can really feel that, like that tension of just like the kind of frenetic nature of the movie. Like it is very comedic leaning, or comedy adjacent.
Yeah.
Like there are funny bits, but it's like he's definitely going through hell. But just the way that Griffin Dunn plays that role, and the way, like I just read in the trivia that Martin Scorsese told him to refrain from sex and sleep as much as possible so that he could really get like that type of performance out of him.
Yeah.
And like the way that it's not even necessarily so much the escalation of everything, but it's just the compounding nature of it. So like everything that happens is for the most part equal to each other, or like him going to the apartment to get the key, and then him going back to the waitress's apartment and stuff. Like the things that he does, they just kind of compound upon each other. It piles up and everything. Like there are certain escalating events in it that really heighten it, but it is more just building off of the previous encounter and everything, which is something that I really appreciated. And also, I think it's kind of unique that just by pure coincidence, we both picked a movie that is comedy focused and has that feel of almost a vignette kind of collection of things, like
the kind of like an episodic kind of structure.
Oh yeah, so I think that was pretty interesting in terms of a coincidence. So, I really loved this movie.
Yeah.
It was when he's in the cab, and Scorsese does this thing a couple of times in this movie where it's like he speeds up the film to give the impression of just reckless driving.
Yeah.
It's almost like it's missing the Benny Hill music. But it is very, it's jarring because it is this heightened, just like surreal kind of thing. It brings you into this surreal reality that Griffin Dunn's character is in. Like he's, on the surface, everything is pretty normal for the most part, but the things that happen to him and the people that he encounter are like just so off the wall, and while still being somewhat grounded that I don't know. It's a really, really interesting tightrope for the movie.
That's the key, that it's still grounded and not, there's another version of this where something unbelievable happens and it kind of takes you out of it.
Yep.
Just to try and escalate the tension and the stakes and everything.
Yeah.
But fortunately this one, it's mostly believable events.
Yeah. Like the impetus of all of the things that happen to him are pretty just straightforward. Like he just happens to meet this woman in a coffee shop, and then he just, or diner, I guess, but what's the difference? And then he finds this waitress at this bar, and then he meets the bartender, and they exchange keys so that he can go do a favor for him. That just seems super just like on the level, but also kind of weird.
Right. Yeah.
It's just slightly surreal and weird.
Right.
Yeah. And I really think that complemented just the crazy reactions and the crazy circumstances that he just gets himself into, but also Griffin Dunn's performance, like the way that he's constantly saying like how he just wants to get home and everything.
Yeah.
And it's so just genuine, but also still grounded in this reality. Like it's set up in a way that's like it doesn't feel contrived. Like any of the times that he gets kind of, pushed up against a wall in terms of his way to get home is just pretty straightforward and grounded in reality, even though it's overall pretty surreal.
And the way that there's little details here and there that kind of get interwoven with every different character and this different storylines. And like what is it? Is it like a ceramic or plaster bagel or something?
Yeah,
paperweight,
cream cheese bagel paperweight or something like that.
Yeah, the way that comes back, that's great. And there's other examples, but I can't really think of them off the top of my head. But the different ways that it all gets connected a little bit. Yeah,
it seems like all the interconnectivity seems like a stretch, like the way that certain characters factor into other characters' lives that he just happens across and everything. But that's part of the charm of it, is that he's in this. It's almost like he's in just a weird alternate universe where everything is conspiring against him getting home.
Right.
And it's just, I don't know. And I just loved Griffin Dunn's performance. This harried, just increasingly what's the word I'm looking for? Increasingly frantic and aggravated and anxious performance. That's just, it's so good. And the way that the movie, again, like, well, I guess we can go non-spoilers for this, but the way that it wraps around and the way that the ending comes about is particularly satisfying. And I really loved it for that. I really, really enjoyed this movie. I think we can save ratings for later, but I really enjoyed it. And yeah, the way that it all kind of wraps around and comes together is really satisfying. Also, Cheech and Chong are in this movie.
Yeah, they sure are.
Yeah. They were fine. They seemed like the most zany of all of the characters. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about a movie that has a like ridiculous mob that goes after Paul in the movie, but they seemed like caricatures to an extent. But the way that the movie kind of reconciles their main character trait and brings it together is just really something that I found really satisfying. The way that all of the interactions and the interconnectivity of the characters and the scenarios and stuff, just, it came about and came together in a really satisfying and felt like an organic way. Mm-hmm. Which, did you find the bit about the ending?
Yes. Okay. And it is kind of spoilery, but okay. I'll just say, when he started filming it, he didn't have an ending.
I saw that in the trivia. Yeah. Does it say how he came about the ending? Because the trivia that I read was that he couldn't figure out a suitable ending for the film. He ended up asking Brian De Palma, Steven Spielberg, and Terry Gilliam to watch the film so they could give their opinion on how it should end. Does it say like how he came to get to that ending?
Not that. He just said he showed it to his father. Well, he had filmed one version of the ending, and then he showed that version to his father, and his dad was angry about it, and so he changed it.
Okay. I had seen that apparently there was an alternate ending that was shown at maybe a test screening, and the test audience hated it.
Okay.
I won't say what it was. But yeah, and that's what led to what I thought was a very perfect kind of ending for the story.
I was really satisfied with it.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting that you went into it not knowing anything about it. Do you usually do that?
Yeah.
Nice.
As much as I can.
Nice. I'm always kind of nervous to do that.
Sometimes it doesn't work out so well.
Yeah. So, would you put this on a great movies list of your own?
I think so.
Nice.
I mean, one thing that we we'll probably talk more in depth about in the future is it's hard to tell exactly what makes what movies made his list and what didn't. They're not necessarily the most well known, like this one. Mm-hmm. It's not the most well known of Scorsese's movies,
right?
There's a lot of them that were foreign, a lot that were, I don't know, indie filmmakers. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to tell what he loved about them.
Yeah.
And then, so, yeah, why not?
Nice. I would probably have to rewatch it a couple of times, but it's a movie that I do think that I would revisit, especially now that I own it on Vudu, which, by the way, it is available on Cinemax if you have like an add-on subscription on Amazon or a Cinemax subscription elsewhere. But it is available to stream there currently as of this recording. And I would probably end up putting it on a list as well. I don't know if it would break like my top 100 of all time or anything like that.
Right, yeah.
But I was just really impressed with it. And how does it compare to the other Scorsese movies that you've seen?
I would say fairly high up there. I'm a pretty big fan of his. Mm-hmm. And I have not seen all of his movies, but, I've seen the bigger, obviously Goodfellas, Taxi Driver. I was a big fan of The Irishman last year. Mm-hmm. I'd probably put it fairly high up there.
Nice. I would too. I would say, cause Scorsese, he is someone who, anytime I see one of his movies, I can recognize that holy crap, this is one of America's great filmmakers.
Yeah.
For sure.
And this one, we didn't really talk about it, but this one definitely has his kind of trademarks.
Yeah.
Like with the camera movements and the musical cues.
Yes.
So yeah, it's definitely a Scorsese movie.
Yeah.
Even if it's not, the subject matter is different.
He does this thing where he just zooms through a scene with the camera that I think is just really hypnotic and immersive. I just really love that style, and it's really prevalent in this movie, and I really appreciate it. But the thing that, like, whenever I see a Scorsese movie, for the most part, it's like, it can be a little emotionally draining, just because of the subject matter. Like,
right.
Goodfellas, or The Irishman, or Taxi Driver is a movie that I've seen maybe once or twice in my life, and I just haven't revisited it because it just seems like such a, I don't want to say daunting thing, but it just seems like this is a bleak movie.
Right, yeah, you gotta work yourself up to it.
Exactly. And this movie has its bleakness and its own, like, tone, but it has that kind of comedy aspect to it that I didn't really expect from a Scorsese movie. And a lot of that is due to just the circumstances that the character finds himself in, and also the performance of Griffin Dunne. I think he carried that tone really well, and it really came through to a point where you care about the character, but it's also like you can't wait to see what he gets into next.
Right.
It's just a very, very fun romp, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Any other thoughts on After Hours?
I think I've said it all.
All right. So once again, thumbs up or thumbs down?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up for me too. So that is that. 2 thumbs up for After Hours. It's weird saying that for, like 2 thumbs up. That's cause, that's, trademark. But anyway, those are our first 2 reviews of the Obsessive Viewer Roger Ebert's Great Movies, list, podcast episode mini-series on the Obsessive Viewer podcast, presented by ObsessiveViewer.com, part 1. So let us know what you thought of After Hours and Duck Soup, and, let's see. So, Ben, we need to pick the movies that we're going to do next time.
Yeah.
I don't know when that's going to be. Maybe a few weeks or so. We'll see. We'll play by ear. I have mine lined up, although I've got to admit that I've been thinking about changing it up, but I'll save that for a later one. As a small hint, I wanted to pick one that I gifted you a lot of the DVDs for.
Oh, okay.
Cause I was looking through like HBO Max and the list and everything, and I was like, I can make them watch a
I still have yet to watch any of those, unfortunately.
Nice.
So
Okay.
I'll take it.
Nice. But we'll save that for a later one, cause I have one in the chamber, but I want to know your pick first.
Okay. I kind of waffled with maybe 2 or 3. And there's no real reason why I am going to pick this one other than it seems this filmmaker has, I think, at least 2 films on this list. But it's called Tokyo Story.
Oh, okay.
From 1953 by Yasujiro Ozu.
Nice. Okay.
It is available on Canopy and HBO Max.
Nice.
So, we pretty much made a point this time to pick something that is streamable. So,
right.
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
Sweet. Yeah, that's been on my radar because, and I meant to mention this before, but, so, like months ago, I was on a very big, Criterion Collection kick. So I bought a bunch of Criterion Collections. I was like, oh, Tokyo Story. I could maybe watch that too. I could grab that. I didn't, but, then HBO Max happened and so many of the movies that I bought are on HBO Max.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting to watch and discuss with you. I'm looking forward to that.
He's a contemporary of Kurosawa, right?
I believe so. I don't know if I've seen any of his movies.
The other one, I forget exactly. I think it's called Floating Weeds.
Okay.
Maybe.
I don't know. He did late spring, early summer, early autumn.
Yeah, Floating Weeds.
Okay. Huh. I'm looking through his filmography now. Floating Weeds, there we go. Let's see. He was definitely a contemporary of Kurosawa because they were working at the same time. I've never seen any of his movies, it seems.
Yeah, me neither.
Wow, that's interesting. Huh. Wow. So yeah, Tokyo Story. I am looking forward to that. Should I read the plot summary or should we keep that?
Go ahead.
Okay. Tokyo Story, 1953, is an old couple visit their children and grandchildren in the city, but receive little attention. Okay. That sounds intriguing. So, shall I, reveal my pick?
Yep.
Okay. So I don't know if you've seen this movie, but, I think given the world that we live in, this would be an interesting movie to watch and discuss. From 1976, directed by Sidney Lumet. It's Network. Have you seen Network?
Oh, I have. I love it.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. Plot summary. When veteran anchorman Howard Beale is forced to retire his 25-year post because of his age, he announces to viewers that he will kill himself during his farewell broadcast. Network executives rethink their decision when his fanatical tirade results in a spike in ratings. And this movie is also available to stream on HBO Max, and I think
that's it. It was on Netflix, but I don't think it's there anymore.
Right. Yes, you're right. Yeah, it was on Netflix, but not anymore. But it is available on HBO Max, which I highly recommend checking out because there is a ton of stuff on HBO Max. Yeah. Hey guys, Matt here, just cutting into this episode real quick to let you know that the day after we reviewed, or the day after we recorded this episode, Network left HBO Max, and it is not available to stream anywhere right now. I thought about changing it up and picking something else, but I think given the subject matter of Network and how it can relate to our current day society or what have you. I think it'll make for an interesting conversation. So I'm going to go ahead and stay with it. It is available to rent on pretty much all the digital platforms and everything. And unfortunately, it's not available on HBO Max. So I just wanted to cut in and let you guys know that. Yeah, enjoy the rest of the episode. Do you want to do a potpourri section, or should we close it out?
It's your show.
Oh, okay. Pressure's on me. Let's do a potpourri section. Let's do a potpourri section.
All right.
So we're going to close out this episode with a probably brief potpourri segment. If this is your first time listening, potpourri is a section of the podcast where we close out the episode with discussing briefly something we've watched or something we're looking forward to. Anything we want, as long as it smells good, it's potpourri. So, Ben, what do you have for potpourri in this episode of the Obsessive Viewer podcast?
I will talk about a documentary from this year called The Painter and the Thief.
Okay.
It's on Hulu right now. And give me a second here to pull it up on IMDb, because I'm sure whatever plot description I come up with wouldn't be doing it justice. Have you seen it?
I have not.
Okay.
Is that the documentary that you messaged me and Tiny about?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So, IMDb plot description. An artist befriends the thief who stole her paintings. She becomes his closest ally when he is severely hurt in a car crash and needs full-time care, even if her paintings are not found. But then the tables turn. So, it's a documentary. I think it takes place in Sweden or Norway.
Okay.
One of those countries that Trump loves so much.
Not a shithole country, though.
No. And yeah, it starts out this semi-famous artist in Norway, whatever, has some of her most highly regarded paintings stolen just in broad daylight. And very early on, it's not a spoiler, they catch one of the guys that did it. I think they catch both of them. And she goes to the trial of one of them and just tries to ask him, like, what did you do with it? Why did you steal my paintings? I just want them back. And it turns out he's a drug addict and he doesn't even remember taking them. So he's of no help to her. And then they form this friendship, and he poses for a couple of paintings for her, and he almost becomes her muse. And it's really interesting dynamic between the two of them, because at first you think it could be like an antagonistic kind of thing, and I'm sure that's probably what I would have done, but I just thought it was really fascinating, just the human story about it, and just how they're kind of almost codependent on each other. Okay. She could have easily just kind of, okay, he doesn't know about the painting, so why should I even continue talking to him? But she continues keeping up with him almost to her detriment. And it's just a really interesting look at not judging people by how they're first presented, cause it's pretty easy to say oh, he's just a druggie and he's going nowhere in his life, and why even bother doing a story about him? Plus I don't know why, but I always like movies and documentaries about artists. Okay. And this one isn't so much about the creative process, but I always just like watching, painters paint or artists creating something. So that part was pretty interesting to me. So, yeah.
That's interesting. It's called The Painter and the Thief.
Correct.
Okay, and it is currently on Hulu.
Correct.
Okay. Nice.
Also, I should add about like the Trump thing. This whole movie, I just kept thinking like, there's no way this movie would be 100% different if it took place in America.
Oh yeah.
Just not only because of the way that we treat each other and we look down on criminals, but the way that the criminal justice system works. And there's a section of the movie where he ends up going to jail, and just the look inside his life in prison is just a 180 from how it is here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
Check it out.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll definitely have to check that out.
I'd say it's top 10 worthy.
Okay.
We'll see if it makes the end of the list, but
nice.
Yeah.
Let me see what I have for Potpourri. Okay, I'll talk briefly about 13 Reasons Why.
Okay.
So, have you watched any of this show at all?
No.
Okay, so it's not good. I will say that the first season was pretty okay. It was pretty solid. It was interesting. It dealt with some pretty intense issues and subject matter and stuff. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. Each subsequent season has been kind of just down in my eyes. But this one is the final season. It's season 4. And man, is it just not anywhere near, like it's nothing. It feels so inconsequential. And I'm only like 5 episodes in. I've talked about it on Patreon. Actually, no, I haven't talked about it on Patreon yet because those are in episodes that are going to come later. Anyway, I will talk about it on Patreon later in more depth, but these first like 5 episodes, it's just the kind of main dramatic tension throughout the series has been like uncovering mysteries, and like the first season was about like what happened to this girl who killed herself, like what happened and what pushed her in that and to commit suicide and everything. And so a lot of it is just unraveling mystery and unraveling like truths about people that you don't know, that you didn't know were true and everything, and kind of putting together this non-linear story and timeline. And then season 2 kind of did the same thing, but also by taking what we knew from the first season and flipping it on its ear somewhat and kind of telling more sides of the same story. And then season 3 was a whole mystery about a dead classmate. And so those are all interesting enough hooks, especially for like a teen drama.
Right.
But the 4th season is so far it is all just the main character dealing with the psychological effects and the mental, his kind of fragile mental state, as a result of everything that's come to this point. So there's no real propulsion to the story in terms of mystery or intrigue. It's all him and his group of friends trying to make sure that their secrets are still kept secret. But that's not enough happens to trigger them into panic mode. Like, there are little bits here and there, but it just seems like most of the time it's just Clay Jensen being like, oh, I'm nervous about this, I'm scared about this, and that's it. And then for some reason, I have no idea why, the show thinks it's a horror show. Like, they have, like, characters having visions of dead characters that are haunting them, and like visions of like really deadly scenarios and stuff that plays like a hallucination scene from a kind of mid or lower tier horror movie that's dumped in the summer or something. It's kind of just a complete mess. And the episode that I finished like a week or 2 ago ends on a cliffhanger that, first of all, it has like the technique to show this cliffhanger, it's an accident of some kind. I'll say that. It's so just sloppy and poorly done. Like, it's all CGI and it's just really goofy looking. But it involves, like, the one character that I am latching onto as someone who is actually entertaining this season. But it's like, this person is in, like, mortal danger. And I'm just like, I'll see the next episode when I see the next episode. Like,
yeah.
I'm good. But yeah, so that's 13 Reasons Why season 4. It's something.
Is that the show that I think Netflix canceled and then people got angry about it and they uncanceled it?
No. Netflix never canceled. No.
Okay.
There was some outcry over the subject matter and they ended up editing, like, the suicide scene from season 1.
Okay.
So it wasn't as graphic, which I can respect that, but oh, man, that scene was rough. Like, it was really intense. But not really in a glorified way.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, there's a whole subplot in the 3rd season where, this group of very, aggressively, feminists, I guess, which I count myself as a feminist, but, like, this is like their whole arc throughout the season is like, we need to convince the school board to cancel all boy sports, like, blanket statement.
Oh boy.
And it was really just hokey and weird, and kind of silly. But yeah, so that's 13 Reasons Why. Yeah, I think that'll do it for this episode of The Obsessive Viewer, I believe.
Can I do a quick plug for my fundraiser?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I keep forgetting to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You have very graciously shared my running fundraiser update thing, basically. So basically, I run the drumstick dash here in Indy every year for the past 4 or 5 years. And that's one of the ones that's on Thanksgiving. It's their mission downtown Indy, which is a homeless shelter for men and women. So the drumstick dash is their main way of raising money throughout the year. And so what I'm doing is I have a personal fundraising page, and what I have been doing is for every $1 that gets donated to my fundraising page, I will run 1 mile. So if someone donates $20, I'll run 20 miles. If someone donates $5, I'll run 5 miles. Not all at once, obviously, but just whatever it takes. Nice. So if anyone out there is listening and feels compelled to make a donation, I can. I have a link in all of my social media, so just check it out there.
And I'll definitely put a link in the show notes of this episode, which will be found at obsessiveviewer.com/OV319.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
That'll do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Ben, for joining me for this inaugural episode of this special podcast series within the Obsessive Viewer podcast. So it's the Obsessive Viewer podcast, Roger Ebert's Great Movies List review series on the podcast, on the Obsessive Viewer podcast, presented by obsessiveviewer.com. Yeah. So thank you for joining me on this. And, yeah, we'll just see you next time. At some point we'll do the next entry in this series. We'll be talking about Tokyo Story from 1953, I think, and Network from 1976. So both of those are available on HBO Max, and go check those out, and we will come back to the show later at some point and talk about them. Ben, thank you so much for joining me. And
thank you.
Yeah, also check out Ben's reviews on the website, obsessiveviewer.com/Ben-Sears or Ben Sears. I don't remember how it is. Yeah. Anyway, it's on the website. So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us or for listening to us, and we'll see you next time. And now, here's a short clip from our Patreon exclusive RSS feed. To hear the full clip and more exclusive Patreon content, go to patreon.com/obsessiveviewer and become a patron at the minimum rate of $1 per month. Thank you and enjoy.
Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
That's normal cat behavior.
Yeah.
By the way, would a zoo be considered school for pets?
I want to say yes, but that might also be prison.
Yeah. What's the difference, right?
That's right. Jesus.
The Obsessive Viewer podcast is edited and produced by Matt Hurt and presented by ObsessiveViewer.com. For a full archive of our episodes, go to ObsessiveViewer.com/OV archive. You can also like our Facebook page and join the OV Facebook group at facebook.com/TheObsessiveViewer. And follow us on Twitter at ObsessiveViewer and at ObsessiveTiny. And follow our recurring co-hosts at I am Mike White, that's me, at R.A. Feckus, and at Burger_Lurker. If you enjoy the show, please take a couple minutes to leave us a rating and a quick review on Apple Podcasts. This is the easiest way to support what we do, and all it costs is a little bit of your time. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can make a PayPal donation at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. Or support us on Patreon for recurring donations and access to commentary tracks and B-roll audio recorded exclusively for patrons at patreon.com/obsessiveviewer. Every donation goes toward paying the fees to keep the podcast running and is greatly appreciated. For official Obsessive Viewer merch, including shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more, visit our TeePublic store. You can find a link to the store in the show notes of this episode and at obsessiveviewer.com/donate. Or you can simply search for Obsessive Viewer at teepublic.com, T-E-E, public.com. For information about our annual live event showcasing short horror films from local filmmakers, check out shocktoberInIrvington.com. And for an archive of all our events, as well as news about potential future events, head over to obsessiveviewer.com/live. For more podcast content, you can find Anthology, Matt's solo podcast covering The Twilight Zone and other classic and contemporary science fiction anthology TV shows at anthologypod.com and on Twitter at OVAnthologyPod. You can also find Tower Junkies, a podcast where Matt and Tiny share their love of all things Stephen King and his magnum opus, The Dark Tower series, at towerjunkiespod.com and at towerjunkiespod on Twitter. And finally, check out The Secular Perspective, Tiny's side project podcast, which tackles current events and life's big questions from the perspective of secular hosts Chad and Amanda at thesecularperspective.com. The theme music for The Obsessive Viewer comes courtesy of the band Loudlike from their EP Mistakes We Must Make. Additional bumper music is provided courtesy of As Good As It Gets, which can be found at facebook.com/asgoodasitgetsband. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Kitty!